Welcome to a live episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to the third, Surviving the Survivor episode of the day, the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime, as I'm choking on something here. Welcome to everybody. I don't have the formal bios tonight, but we're all family here. We're talking Dan Markel, of course, who's at the center of all this, and Donna Adelson, the matriarch of the Adelson crime family, who was in court earlier today for a fairly short hearing. But I wanted to really open this up to everyone at STS Nation. We're going to go through what transpired today, what we think it all meant, and we will then take your questions and talk about possibilities here with Donna's trial impending.
Joel,
one thing I want, yes,
can
sir.
I do some breaking news?
Yes, you can, please.
So Eugene Barry was a prosecutor, and he was executed by the defendant of a prosecutor, of the victim of the defendant, and they named the Prosecutor of the Year award after Eugene Barry. The reason Georgia Kappelman was not in court today, she won the Prosecutor of the Year award at the FPA, and I talked to Jack on the way back, and her family was there. So she's recognized as the most outstanding prosecutor in the state of Florida, and I will say it's well deserved.
Wow, that's for the entire state?
For the entire state of Florida.
Wow.
Prosecutor of the Year.
Wow. Congrats to Georgia Kappelman. Brother, does that surprise you? By the way, real quick intros. You know, famed Tallahassee defense attorney R, the letter R and O-U-R, Timothy Jansen, former federal prosecutor. You've got Joe Potuto, professor emerita at the University of Nebraska. She's been doing it a long time, taught everywhere, knows everything you need to know about what's inside those very crazily thick law books. Have you read every single law book ever published, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect answer. Did not miss a beat. And then you've got Martin Radner, better known as Brother Counsel. He is a lawyer by day, YouTuber by night. He's got the Scales of Justice behind him. Brother Counsel is the YouTube channel. Check it out. Brother, are you surprised at this news that Georgia Kappelman is the Prosecutor of the Year in the great state of Florida?
Well, I mean, just from watching the trials, I'm not surprised at all. But I do want to say, Joel, that I'm noticing some of the love from the comments, so I appreciate all the love. And yeah, it has been, you know, I do see some long time no sees, and it has been a long time, but I got to apologize. The reason why I wasn't able to come on more often the past few months is because I was engrossed in a new hot seller book that Joel Waldman put out. So I really, you know, I couldn't put it down. So I was just so busy with that book. I just couldn't carve out extra time. And I understand now that it's available even on Kindle for $1.99. So
who paid you? Who paid you?
I was just
Martin?
wondering that. Who paid him?
But I'm glad you brought it up, because my book for the next 3 weeks is $1.99 on it is $1.99 on Kindle. I had a fight with my publisher about that, but we decided for 3 weeks he's going to do it because I want to get it widely circulated. But
yeah, so I do want to apologize to everybody that I wasn't able to come on, because, you know, just that book is just so amazing. But now I put it down after I've read through it 4 times, changed my life. You know, now I can come back, resurface, talk about the Dan Markel case. So yeah, I mean, Georgia Kappelman, I mean, if you've seen the trials, I mean, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, look, I don't know all the other prosecutors down there, but she obviously is extremely competent lawyer, definitely a good trial lawyer, making her way through the Adelson family. And the $1 million question that everyone's waiting for is if Wendy's going to be next.
Actually, the $1 million question is, do you actually play ice hockey? I mean, you do live in Detroit. That's what Blurry Light says.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is that, yes, I do play ice hockey. I was actually one of the top 10 prospects coming out of my high school. No, I'm just joking about that. But no, I do play ice hockey, just, you know, in what we call beer league. And I picked it up when I was in high school. I played a lot of roller hockey when I was younger. And then once I got into high school, I decided to take it up a notch to ice. And that's when I picked it up and I've been playing ever since. So I don't want to age myself, but it's been a little while since I was in high school. But there's actually right now, I keep saying this on my channel because I'm playing for this tournament. They actually have this tournament also down in Florida there, Joel. It's to benefit an organization called RCCS, which is a organization that really helps families that have been stricken with cancer. So they really helped people, support them, support the families. We all have had friends or family that unfortunately have gone through it, and we know what that can do from every single way of the spectrum, how that completely can destroy a family. So this is an organization that really helps those families out. They reach out, they help, they navigate the system. They're there for support. They're there for some help from financially. So I'm playing in this tournament to benefit them. I have a page that I have to raise some money for. So I keep talking about it on my channel until I hit my goal. I'm going to keep talking about it on my channel. So the easiest way for me to stop talking about it is to just donate a few bucks to that. But it's by my channel. You can look at the screen.
Yeah, is there a link on your channel? How do people
Yeah,
find
well,
you?
the link is in the last few videos that I put out. In the description, there's a link to my my thing. So we can get that. And
I'll put it in I'll put it in our show summary, and I'll shoot it out on social if you get me the link.
Okay, I'll do that. And then also I will tell you that somebody asked, because I did a Q&A, and somebody asked what my number is in RCCS for when I play for these tournaments. And my number is 54. And the reason why I choose that number is because that's the number that my mother gave me. She stopped counting us. She stopped referring to us by names because I come from a family of 9. So she just calls us. No, I'm just joking. No, she calls me. She has numbers because she decides there's 5 boys in our family and 4 girls. So the way that she does it is that what number kid you are and what number of that gender. So I was the 5th kid, 4th boy. So that's why my number is 54. So she watches me play so she can have that enjoyment seeing my number there, 54, when I'm skating around.
I had no idea. I just learned so much. It's quite amazing. Tim Jansen, I have a question for you. This is obviously going to be a wacky show. It's already started that way. But, I was in news 27 years, and I can never, ever do the full wins or not. And your ties are like they're like presidential. Do you think you could show me the full Windsor?
I will.
You will.
It's not hard.
Apparently it is.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't done it, you're right. Unless you do it and practice it, it's right. You're right.
Yeah, but it looks phenomenal always. Tim is like straight out of criminal defense casting 101 right here. So I want to clarify something. They talked about a trial date. I don't think I was clear about this at this afternoon's hearing. And the new defense team posed June 16th through July 2nd, to which Judge Everett said, I answer to a higher authority, my wife, as most of us do. So there you go. But the point here is, Tim, you'd be happy to know all kiddos are eating chocolate chip cookies. I couldn't read the rest. She took it down. Anyway, they're eating chocolate chip cookies. But anyway,
Great. I love them.
The trial goes June 16th to July 2nd. That is if Judge Everett's calendar permits it. It is not a firm date yet, but it is what they are looking to do. So Tim Jansen, with all that said, that's really not a lot of time. I mean, we're going to get into what this hearing was about today, but I mean, how much work is this guy Josh Zellman, going to have to do along with Jackie Fulford ahead of this? I mean, is this going to be like 16-hour days for these people for the next 6 months? What do they do?
You got 6 months. All right. This is not a healthcare fraud case where you got to review 1 million documents. It's a murder case. They've seen it. They've got transcripts. I'm sure they've watched it over the years. So they kind of know what's been happening. They've been talking to Donna, interviewing Donna. So they kind of know what their defense is going to be or what their defense is not going to be. 6 months is ample time. A good defense lawyer can try almost any case in 30, 45 days. Now, I'm not talking about big paper cases, but a murder case, yeah, I could go in and try a murder case in 30, 45 days.
So, wow, that's good to know. That would make me nervous.
Well, you don't have a whodunit, right?
Yeah, but I like
So-
how you're like, it's not an insurance fraud
And
case,
we know
it's
how
just a
the
murder.
right, and we know how the person was killed. It's a question of, can they prove the conspiracy?
I'm hiring Tim if I ever need criminal defense. Maybe I'll bring Martin in on the side. Joe Potuto will be the lawyer emerita. Now that I can use that word. So Joe Potuto, to you, this was a fairly short hearing, like 12 minutes. Tell the audience, STS Nation, what you believe is the headline out of this. What's most important?
Well, we know that there's going to be a trial. We know potentially when the date is going to be. We know that this is more than a headline. This is, I guess, the first paragraph. We know that the two lawyers who she hired are conflict free and are going to be able to do the defense. So, the kind of the important things, we're going to go here the lawyers are, and they're going to be ready in 6 months, I guess would be the sort of headline, two sentences maybe.
Yeah. By the way, someone's poking fun at me for doing a show on this, but this is our original case. And that's why I said earlier, we covered the hearing, which was short, but I really do want to open this up to you guys, to STS Nation, to ask our esteemed panel anything you want to ask. The hearing was short, but we are serious in our pursuit of justice for Dan Markel. And we've been covering this other story about this 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. I just did a show on that, but this is our original case, and we obviously don't want to forget or misplace it amongst the other news. So that's why this is important, that we do a show on this. I agree with this, that Judge Everett is in fact a saint. COE, I still don't know what button to press to lift up Brother Counsel. Let me see. I'm going to try this live. Which button? How many buttons over is it, COE? I need to know this finally.
I'm glad you don't fly a plane.
Yeah, COE, which button? How many buttons over from the left?
It's too complicated. You have to go down.
Oh, forget
On
it.
the
Forget
arrow
it.
on the
Forget it.
left. Okay.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. So, Tim Jansen,
Yep.
there was an in-camera meeting, which means in the chambers, behind closed doors.
Right.
Any better idea? I know you're sniffing around Tallahassee. Any better idea of what that might have been about? I think you were saying it could have been related to Robert Adelson or other things. What are your thoughts several hours later?
Well, first of all of the prosecutors are at this conference, the Florida Prosecutors Association. So it's kind of quiet. We're getting into Christmas time. So no, I don't know what happened with the in-camera hearing. Hopefully we'll hear something, something might be filed. Maybe much to do about nothing, but it was important enough that they did it today at the hearing, and they took a break and took care of it today.
Brother Counsel, it's questions for Tim, which I'm giving to you from Mossberg Mom, who I met in Orlando at the Sarah Boone trial. She is a wonderful person and a definite character and a force of nature. So, brother, do you think that they're going to convict Donna Adelson? She's not messing around. She's going straight for the proverbial jugular here. She wants the answer. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, if I would be getting involved in this case right now, I would have a completely different approach than Dan Rashbaum was taking. I think everybody understood that the double extortion theory is not the greatest defense, and he kind of let the cat out of the bag early on, that he basically said that that's going to be his defense. If I'm getting involved in the case now, I want to distance myself, distance Donna as much as I can from Charlie. I want to say that they were not on the, she did not know about the extortion, and this was just her son asking for money. She didn't know what it was for. Maybe he was quiet about it. She was just trying to be the helpful mom, trying to help out his son for whatever reason. He's asking for money, but she was just oblivious to really what was going on. I think that that's kind of how I would shift this. I don't know if they're going to, be able to change their defense. I don't know if Donna's stuck with that defense. That's why I think people have been asking, is would I want Charlie to testify if I'm Donna Adelson? Would I not want Charlie to testify? I think if I'm representing Donna Adelson, I want to distance myself from Charlie. I don't want Charlie anywhere near the trial. I'd rather Donna take the stand and say that she didn't know anything, and it was just her son asking for some money.
Well, hang on a second there, because Tim, didn't you say that Donna sort of needs Charlie to tell her story? I want these lawyers to fight with each other now.
Unless she testifies. If she's not going to testify, she might need him. These lawyers, you're going to see an entirely different case. You're going to see a trial that's going to be split up equally. They're both going to are very competent. They're both going to do a job, and they're going to be good. Now, it's not a question, are they going to be good? Yeah, they're going to be better than what Dan. Dan overworked himself. He came up with this cockamamie defense, and he blew it out the wad too quickly, and the prosecution was able to knock it down early and often. So I don't think they'll make that mistake. And I think that by splitting it up, they'll be more effective, and you're going to see two different approaches. One's probably going to take a low key. One's probably going to be aggressive to make it even, so they don't, disorient the jury. So I think they're going to it's going to be a tough trial, but I still think in the end, the evidence is going to be a conviction.
Tim, this one's for you because you know everybody involved. My friend Nikki Cuds. How competent does the panel think her new attorneys are? You've got this guy, Josh Zellman, and Jackie Fulford, a former judge, now a funeral home owner and a lawyer. Tim, how competent are they? I mean, they're no Tim Jansens, but how do they think?
Well, Jackie was a prosecutor before she was a judge. Okay, so I knew her when she was a prosecutor. I knew her as a judge, and I know her now as a funeral. But I don't know how often she's trying cases. But it's kind of like riding a bike, right? You ride a bike, you get back on. I have not seen Josh try a case. I know he's won cases. I've talked to him about legal theories. He's pretty bright. They'll know the jury pool. The judge knows them. The prosecution knows them. So I think you're going to see a little more cordial. Maybe Jackie might have a little rough spots with the prosecution, but I think it'll be a more cordial trial and a more effective defense team.
Well, it's definitely going to be Tallahassee, unlike Dan Rashbam, who's definitely an outsider with Josh Dubin at Charlie's trial. But by the way, I put this up here. Ruth is going to be speaking. I'm going to be introducing, and Dave Arenberg is going to be speaking, who is the state attorney in Florida for Palm Beach County. And Ruth is going to be discussing and talking about meaningful conversations. What is a meaningful conversation? She's going to bring it full circle. She's going to be at JAFCO Sunday, December 22nd. There's a link in the chat that you can click on. You need to RSVP for the event, but I know Ruth would love to see and meet all of you. So please, if you can, try to make it. Again, December 22nd at JAFCO Children's Village in Sunrise, Florida. And this is Donna today. This question right here goes to the professor, and keep them coming, STS Nation. It's all about you tonight. Is it certain that Donna is not going to have another defense story?
Well, I guess nothing is certain in life, but I certainly think she'd be better off finding one. The one that Charlie had was, I think everyone who's looked at it thought was crazy and wasn't going to work. She may be linked to it in that, as I know all of us, I think, on this panel may have said at different times, she may say that she believed the story that Charlie told her, but she didn't have independent information, but he was her son and he told her, here's what's going on. So she went along with it, which is a kind of, it's tied to the other story. Or she may try something very different, but I'm sure it's not going to be the same story that Charlie had. She'd have to be, I don't know what you'd say about her, but anybody with any sense would not follow. Well, anybody with any sense wouldn't have done it the first time. So I don't think she'll do.
Yeah. Brother Counsel, to you, this question is your wheelhouse here. Rosemary Romero, outside of Toronto, in your neck of the woods almost. How many hearings will they have between now and potentially this trial? Again, these are tentative dates, but June 16th is the target date. June through July, part of July of this year, or of next year. I'm sorry, it feels like this year, but next year.
Well, I'll tell you, that's exactly going to determine to see how this defense team is going to be. If anything, we've learned from the Karen Reed case, when they brought in this new prosecutor, he's filing motions all over the place. He's filing motions. He's getting more discovery. He's doing more experts. He is complete. It's a different case. It's going to be a different case. And you can kind of tell that from all the motions that he's filing and all the hearings that they're having. So if this new defense team is digging in and they're doing it, they're putting 110% in, then you may find a lot of motions being filed. You may find a lot of hearings being requested and issues that they're going to try to make out of something, or preclude certain evidence from coming in, or so I think it's hard to tell, because I don't know these attorneys, but I will say that just because we kind of saw how the trial went with Dan Rashbaum, excuse me, and Charlie Adelson, when you have a new defense team and they want to really do a good job, they may be filing a lot of motions. So we may be having a number of hearings. On the other hand, maybe they just feel everything's already hashed out and there's not much to argue. Just familiarize yourself with the case and the facts, and they'll be ready to go. So still up in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised, should I say, if this is an aggressive defense team, that they're that they would start filing motions right and left. It's definitely a posture that some.
Well, Mark, you said a bold statement. It's going to definitely be much different. How so?
The trial. What do you mean?
The trial.
I think the trial. I think the trial is going to be different, as like we're all saying, because they're going to come up. They're going to have to come up with a new theory. And by the way, if I had a choice, if I'm Donna Adelson's attorney, and I have a choice whether to have the story come out through Charlie Adelson or to come out through Donna Adelson, I don't think Charlie Adelson is very likable from a jury, especially a Tallahassee jury. And and again, I don't know Tallahassee. I know Tim does, but just from me in Michigan, I would imagine that having a 74-year-old lady get up on the stand and talk is just right away going to be more palatable to a jury than having this, I'm smarter than you, periodontist, talk to them. So I think that if I'm the attorney for Donna, I'd prefer Donna to take the stand than Charlie. And then the only question is if, you're going to have to take the risk of her getting tripped up in cross-examination. But I don't like Charlie on the stand. I don't like him on the stand, and I think the jury's not going to like him. So I want him off the stand. So it's the lesser of two evils, I think.
Interesting. That is interesting. Professor, to you, working our way backwards now, do you think that certain statements, this is interesting, in the Over My Dead Body podcast, which is about this case, and I think it has 30 million downloads, just behind our download number, will be considered at trial? How do you think Wendy will be tried? But what about public statements? And people have joked with me, because I had Dan Rashbaum on, that I'm going to be called as a witness, which would terrify me. Never going to happen. But what about like the public domain here with all these podcasters, content creators? You got the Datelines, you've got the 2020s. Is all that fair game if it's in the public domain to be brought into trial potentially?
Well, if there's a relevant statement by someone, whether it's made on a podcast or made somewhere else, that person can be subpoenaed to testify. You can't bring the statement in without the witness to provide it typically. I don't know. I don't know how many statements have been made in public that are relevant and are not subject to easy cross-examination with regard to whether the person actually knew what the person was talking about. But if there's a statement out there that's credible, relevant, and reason to believe that the person is speaking from experience, that person can be called. I just, I don't have the information as to what they're talking about in terms of the statements out there when they might want to bring somebody in. I guess I would add that podcast is quite a while ago, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a while
several
ago.
years. So if there's anything that the state or the defense thought in the podcast was made by a witness that they could use, it seems to me they would already have used the witness.
That's a good point too. Tennis Girl 101, Tim Jansen. Does Tim know why Luis Rivera's attorney was there today? I didn't notice that. I don't know if you did, Tim, but if he was there, why was he there? And does that have anything to do with the in camera? This is the Adelson crime family on the right, Dan Markel in the middle. You've got Katie Magbanua in the middle on the left, and Luis, who we're talking about, top left, and bottom left is Sigfredo Garcia, who's spending the rest of his life along with the mother of his children right above him in state prison. But Tim, Luis Rivera's attorney, I had no idea he was there. What do you make of that if he was in fact there?
I don't know if that case management had other cases on the docket or if it was singly, but if it had other cases on the docket, he would be there normally. He does court-appointed cases. He gets appointed. He's a conflict lawyer. and that's how he got Lewis. He wasn't paid by Lewis. He was a conflict attorney. It would not be abnormal for many different lawyers to be there. I did not see him going in the back for the in-camera. Of course, they cut the feed as soon as the case was over, but it doesn't surprise me that he was in court. I was in the court next door, but I didn't. I got my partner to cover it. So otherwise, I probably would have been in the court also.
There you go. Julia Nielsen to Brother Counsel. How does she overcome her wiretap? Probably the two of us. That is very incriminating. Brother Counsel, you're the lawyer. I'm not. You guys know how to wiggle your way out of situations. Always, truthfully, I might add. But how do you respond to this?
Well,
question?
I mean, just what's coming off the cuff is that bump what happened obviously after, long after. Could be she got information after what happened, and then Charlie kind of brought her in, and maybe that would say that she's guilty for accessory after the fact. But does that mean that she was involved in the conspiracy from the beginning? Maybe making some sort of argument like that maybe she found out after it was all done and Charlie really did everything himself. And then when the bump happened and she realized, oh shoot, I was really involved with giving money, and I look like I could be involved in this. And that's what she was saying. Perhaps they can, bring some sort of argument like that. On the other hand, I think, Joel, I think you're okay. I think you're safe. I don't think you're going to get subpoenaed to this trial, even if Dan Rashbaum is going to be called as a witness, which is questionable whether he's going to be called as a witness.
Yeah.
They may be able to use his statements, but they're not going to be able to use your statements or what you remember him saying. They're going to have the recording of him from your podcast, and they'll be able to use those statements against him, but they won't be able to say use you, and you don't really have any personal knowledge, so you can just calm down about that.
Brother knows how to relax me. Anyway, I've got Tim up in Tallahassee. He was definitely I'll be standing behind him in the courtroom. To Joe Potuto, the professor. Does anyone, for Robin Ray, our friend out in LA, he's going through a difficult time. Does anyone think Donna will testify? Joe Potuto, if you're a betting woman, do we see her on the stand? I mean, it's been said that she's got to explain her story. How does she do that? If Charlie doesn't go up there to help, is she going to be up there?
Yes.
She is.
Yes.
And how long will she be up there, Joe Potuto?
Well, that's harder to say. I don't know what the news story will be, and I don't know what the cross will be. So, that's really doesn't have to be that long. But I assume the cross is going to go after her, 9 ways from Sunday, because there are a lot of material on which to impeach her or ask for explanation or go after her. So I wouldn't be surprised if the cross is much longer than the direct. That's for sure.
I was just going to say that, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tim Jansen, this is obviously inside law baseball here, but does a prosecutor, Georgia Kaplan and the team, do they have an idea of what the defense is going to be before trial? Do they try to read the tea leaves? How does all that play out?
They do more than read tea leaves. They listen to tapes in the jail. And most times defendants are dumb enough to say something after they meet with their lawyer and tell their family what their defense is going to be. So then the state knows what it's going to be. And then lo and behold, my God, where'd that witness come from? Man, he just threw our story right out. So they can't help themselves. They're allowed to do it. They can get an idea about the witness list. They can get an idea during depositions, kind of where the defense is going, where they're going to attack, what their theory is going to be. And the prosecution, we kind of do the same thing. We're looking at police reports. We're looking at witnesses. We're looking at motions that they're filing. We're looking at evidence that they're seeking to introduce. So you get a roadmap. We get kind of idea where they're coming. But Georgia's one of those that will hold back. I've had her do that to me. She's clever. She's very good in trial. She doesn't miss a beat, and she never is rattled. You don't rattle Georgia. You know what? I should say that if you do rattle her, it doesn't show.
There you go. Poker face. Tim, in your best Tim Jansen criminal defense voice, the state gets up there and they say, look, jurors, this defendant bought a one-way ticket to Vietnam via Dubai a week after her son was convicted. That sure seems suspicious. It appears to be consciousness of guilt. You need to find her guilty. What does Tim Jansen say in response?
No, not at all. She saw how he didn't get a fair trial. He saw how the jury came back quickly. She bought a ticket with no round trip ticket. She didn't buy a place. She rented a place, and she was going to come back right after the appeal, after he got a new trial. And that's what she was telling people. And that's why she wanted a place to stay. And if she wanted to flee, she could have fled a lot sooner than that.
I don't know why. Anytime Tim says anything, I believe him. So now Donna's going to walk. That's
You
it.
can sit on my jury anytime, Joel.
Yeah, it's going to
walk. Tell him you don't know me.
It's just scary that Tim does it with such ease. That's what's crazy.
You don't want me because I didn't believe it, Tim.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it.
Professor Potuto, what about this? I wonder if Donna's new lawyers thought Charlie's defense was ridiculous after he was found guilty last year, not knowing that they would be dealing with it now. It's a funny kind of predicament to be in. I'm sure they were talking about it. They probably did say, hey, it's kind of crazy. Everyone else did.
Yeah.
And now
if they, excuse me, go ahead, finish.
No, I'm done.
Yeah. If they saw or followed the trial, they probably would have thought it was ridiculous before the jury came back with a guilty verdict. I don't think they had to wait until after the verdict came in as quickly as it did. But, they took this case with their eyes open, knowing that was his defense, knowing that he rolled her into his defense and that they've got to find a way to deal with it. And they're getting paid a lot of money to figure out how to do it. So I think they're okay with it.
STS with good questions tonight. Thank you, because I am fried. Julia Nielsen, my mom, why are you complaining? Don't tell them. Will the new info come in where Donna Adelson and Charlie Adelson say it was Dan Markel's drug dealer? So there's this whole thing now. I guess this is newly discovered evidence where they're basically making this claim that he was a drug addict and was killed by a dealer. I mean, Martin, does that come in? How does that come in?
I haven't heard that actually.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing it sitting here right now. But if there's some sort of recordings of them saying that, then
I think it's text messages, right, Tim? I think it's some sort of text message.
I didn't hear what you say. What was the conversation?
It was about this new evidence where they're Donna and Charlie, and sorry to cut you off there, brother, but Donna and Charlie are basically giving like a reason for how Dan died by saying that he was maybe dealing drugs. And killed by drug dealers. So, but was that in text form? I think that was in text form.
That was a text or an email. It was not. I don't think it was a conversation.
Yeah, but is that going to be admissible in this trial, or is that prejudicial?
It would be a co-conspirator statement in furtherance of the conspiracy. I would argue that it would be admissible.
Yeah, and especially if it's Donna Adelson's statement. I mean, that's her own statement. It stays against interest. It's admission. I mean, yeah, that's definitely going to come in.
Brother, how about this? When they play the call after the bump, shout out to our friend Mr. Bumpman, where Donna tells Charlie that had to do with both of them. Doesn't that destroy a defense if she didn't know what her son was doing?
Yeah, well, this is kind of what we spoke about last one. I just imagine that the defense on this would be that perhaps Charlie told her what happened after the fact. And maybe, before she didn't know, she was giving some money. He asked for some money, and as a good mother, she gave him money. And then afterwards, he's like, oh, by the way, this was all to do that. And then the bump happens. And then she's like, oh, shoot, now I'm really in trouble. So that's why she said it has to do the both of us. I can't do it as convincingly as Tim, but I imagine it would probably go something like that.
Yeah, well, you better get on the ball, brother. By the way, let me let me filter in some. Let me filter.
I know when I'm in over my head. When Tim's here, I'm just watching. No, I'm sitting in the back of the courtroom watching when Tim's.
I'm in awe of the professor. Professors kind of scare me all the time.
Yeah, it's so listen, there was actually news out of this hearing. This is a direct quote from Judge Stephen Everett, who everyone loves. He said, I want to be clear on this. It's going to be firm. He's talking about a trial date. There's too much logistics that are involved with moving prisoners, with everyone who needs to be brought to hear for making this trial actually happen. So when that trial date is set, it is going to be firm. Tim Jansen, he doesn't mess around. Means if you Dan Rashbaum famously tore, I think, his ACL or his Achilles, you're going to be limping into court if you set the date with Judge Everett. Is that right? If anything happens.
Well, things happen. Experts die. witnesses get sick, prosecutors can get sick, the judge or someone else could have illness or a death in the family that could. But no, for the most part, if everything goes as it is, parties should be ready to go and expect to be going in June, early July, unless Miss Everett has a trip planned at the end of June to, France or Italy. I would expect the judge will say, I'm not available.
Shout out to Judge Everett, who loves the Metro Deli as much as I do. We see him waiting outside the Metro Deli just down the street from the courthouse.
Actually, Joel,
yeah.
Actually, Joel, if I can just jump in, there's one time there was a trial where I wasn't first chairing it. My brother was first chairing it, and he actually broke his ankle right before the trial. And he was hobbling into the trial with his boot on, and he was trying the case, and he actually used that in his closing argument. He's like, you probably all think that I broke, he kept talking about in jury selection how he broke his ankle, playing football. And he's like, but you don't really know it's because of football. It could have been because I was playing hockey. So, that's what reasonable doubt is, so like he kind of used it, but he was hobbling around in his broken ankle. So, you gotta, that's what we sign up for. Unless you're in the hospital dying, then you got to show up.
Brother, how many of the 9 siblings are attorneys?
So there's only 2 of us. But 2 of my sisters married lawyers. So if you count that, that's 4. Any
doctors in the family?
So we have an eye doctor, a dentist, a nurse practitioner. The girls were the smart ones, so they went into the medical field. So the boys weren't as smart, so we just said, math and science weren't our thing, so we went into law.
Yeah, I'm learning everything about brother tonight after all this time. To the professor. Is there enough evidence against Donna that does not involve the money trail and the defense Charlie used? That's interesting. What say you?
The money trail, meaning the money from the dentist's office and her involvement with the money and Charlie's. Well, there's first of all, the number one thing is the evidence of flight in terms of consciousness of guilt with regard to her. She's central to the motive, at least in the prosecution theory, in terms of what happened. Trying to think of you're making me go back through the evidence now and see what some of the evidence was. I'm going to take too long to think through it. I will say generally, without being able to dredge up all the pieces, that I certainly think there's enough evidence with her, even though her involvement with the money is certainly an integral part of what shows her involvement. And since they're co-conspirators, the evidence that would come through the statement or the acts of other conspirators is evidence against her. So, there's a lot of evidence there against her.
Albeit a lot is circumstantial, but that is for sure. Go ahead, brother. I didn't want to.
No, just there's a lot. Those emails are very damaging. A lot of the text messages, a lot of the audio. There's a lot of evidence that you got to overcome. If you're down, it's not just the money.
Yeah. If Donna comes up with a different defense, Tim Jansen, not extortion, how does the state refute it? Interesting question. What if they come with something totally out of left field here, which is basically what people thought Rashbaum did the first time around with Charlie?
Well, Dan never tried a murder case before, my understanding. So he let the cat out of the bag. These lawyers trying this case are experienced. They know sometimes surprise at the right time is more important than, glory in the media and getting 5 minutes of fame. Your goal is to win or get the charges reduced, right? He couldn't help it. He was so excited about his defense that he blew it in opening. I think these lawyers will be a little more suspect. I think they'll be more clever. I think they will file quite a bunch of motions, and I've told you before, Joel, as a defense lawyer, you have to be very creative, but you also have to have credibility, right? So today, the lawyer for the guy that shot the hospital executive, what did he come out and say? I haven't seen any evidence that he was the shooter. Are you kidding me? He's better saying nothing than that. I haven't seen any evidence that he's the shooter.
What would you say, Tim? We just did a show on that. It was they found the
Yeah.
gun, they found the IDs. But Tim, what would you say to defend
Okay, so
Luigi
when
Mangione?
you don't know what they have and it's really bad, my client denies it. We're conducting our own internal investigation, and my client is adamant that he will be found not guilty when the trial is completed. You don't come out and say there's no evidence that he was the shooter. I mean, they found the gun on him, right? They found the manifesto on him, and the eyebrows match.
Oh my God, he was a character. Someone said he was a combination of Joe Pesci
And Groucho Marx.
and Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live, and he really did look like a combination of the two. To the professor who knows, she has read, by the way, every legal book ever written, cover to cover. This is true.
That's right. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn. I'd be happy to sell you.
Wouldn't Charlie just take the fifth? Interesting point, because he's got his appeal. I mean, is there any chance he's going to speak?
Well, it depends on if the state subpoenas him and puts him on the stand, he's going to have immunity, and then he can't take the fifth. What immunity does is erase your ability to say, I won't answer on the possibility that what I say might incriminate me, because the immunity says what you say can't incriminate you. So that's going to be gone. If he's called by the defense, then he's got that, but then he can say he's got the fifth, he won't take the stand. They're not going to make him get on the stand and assert the privilege. So the fifth is not going to get in the way if the prosecution wants him, either as in the case in chief, which I would doubt, or as rebuttal, depending on what Donna says. He won't be able to assert the privilege.
By the way, Professor, everyone's been asking, what is behind you? Are these Christmas decorations? Kind of tough to tell. Is that an angel on the left?
Yeah, one of the things I do for Christmas is my angel collection, and those are the angels.
Oh, that's awesome. Look like an angel.
They look better in person. I see them there, but they're up, and I'm not going to take them down and put them up again.
Hold on. How many angels do you have? How long have you been collecting angels for?
Oh, for years. I get them as gifts sometimes. I think they're probably about, counting the little ones, they're probably 16 here, but I've got bunches. I don't know. In this house, there's nowhere to put them. So I rotate the angels.
Yeah, look at this. Off topic, Joe Potuto. Those angels behind you. I make angels. I would love to send you one.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Wow.
Patricia, email us survivingthesurvivor@gmail.
Wow,
I'll connect you with Joe.
I thought I can't show it to you, but it's in a plexiglass case. It's an artist version of an angel. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I don't need an angel because my wife is an angel.
Oh, listen to this.
wow.
Have you been in trouble today that you're trying to get out of, or is this banking ahead?
I thought that was just quick movement on my part.
If you think Joel is already all paid up at this point, I mean, there's probably a debt there that he's got to take care of first. But I wanted to jump in a little bit because I think we spoke about this before, about how Dan Rashbaum let the cat out of the bag in his opening statement. I know that was one of the first things I was talking about on my channel was that why would you do that? Why would you just tell them your whole case at opening, attack their case, and then at closing you say, look guys, this is what really happened. And then it's oh, now I got to change. So, I mean, we talked about that, right? I think Tim and I spoke about that at maybe a different show, a different time on your show.
We did.
But, if they completely shift and George is completely off guard with what they come up with, some different type of story, there's actually a line that I just wrote in one of my briefs, which I got from Samuel Johnson just to, make sure I'm citing it correctly. But the line goes like this: fraud and falsehood only dread examination. Truth invites it. So when you're a prosecutor and you got the truth on your side and they're going to put up some cockamamie defense, the more that you ask questions, the more that you dig into it, the more it's going to all fall apart. So even if you don't know, even if Georgia has no idea about what they're going to argue, but if they start coming up with something and you just keep asking questions and clarifying, let's just clarify that a little bit more, ask more and more questions, it's all going to end up falling on its face. So,
well, you've also got, Donna, you have to be able, the truth doesn't require much imagination because you don't have to worry about what you said 5 minutes ago or a year ago. Much harder when you're being asked, and you've got to remember to keep it straight, particularly if there's a question you hadn't anticipated or it's asked a little differently. I would, if I might, I'd like to add something about Daniel Rashbaum trying to keep that defense a secret, because part of the issue, as I understand it, that arose with the conflict that meant that the September 17 trial was stopped was related to Charlie being called to testify. And what they had was that in Charlie's trial, Donna and Harvey had been listed as witnesses and then withdrawn. And part of the claim that is being made in Charlie's appeal is that shows the conflict. He couldn't call Donna because he was representing Charlie, and he couldn't ask questions that would have affected one representation or the other. And he said at that hearing, when they were talking about it, that what had happened was Georgia had listed Harvey and Donna on her witness list, and he thought what they were trying to do was get at his secret defense by being able to depose them, and that's what started that whole issue. So he was trying to keep it secret. He suspected the prosecution of going after it early, and then he got to trial and gave it away in opening. Although, as I recall, not at the beginning of the opening. It was, I've got something I'm going to tell you, so just stay tuned, keep listening. And then he brought it out later.
No, I thought he brought it out in the opening.
No, he brought it up
later in the opening. He kept saying in the opening, I'm going to tell you something, stay tuned,
He couldn't help it. He couldn't help it. It was a
secret. Although I will say, Joel, that I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I'm done. I'm good.
I will say, Joel, that when he was on your podcast, Dan Rajbaum, he told you that he was trying to keep that defense secret all the way up to trial. So that's one of the statements that may come in, Joel, if he's testifying on the stand, that statement. No, but
now Martin has me worried. Now he has me worried again after he calmed me down. Tim, this is an interesting question here. Should they pick, jury selection? We all know with Charlie, they brought in this guy, Josh Dubin, who you have said they probably paid $250,000 to pick a jury that
probably
failed.
more than that.
Yeah. Should they pick older people to be jurors to remove sympathy toward older women? Evil has no age. Very good point. Because look, you look at her here, and people who don't know her, sorry to cover you up there. If I knew which button to press, then I wouldn't have that problem, but I don't. And the COE says it's too complicated for me. So there you go. But look, you see her here. Tim, are they going to be better off picking slightly older jurors that are going to say, hey, I'm older too, and this is still wrong. She could have done it. If you show this to like a 20-year-old, you show this to my son, he's going to think she's 180. And he would be calling her grandma. No offense to my mom.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think it's good that the prosecutors are women, because women judge other women more harshly. So you don't have some male prosecutor beating up on grandma. I think that they don't want a bunch of older women, right? Because older women are going to know their friends, and they're going to say, my friends would never do that. But you get younger people on there and going to say, man, that could be my grandmother. My grandmother would never do something like that. So I think you got to be very careful. But Georgia and Sarah don't care who the jury is. That's how confident they are in their case. It doesn't matter. All they need to do is get off the crazies that don't believe in government, or their family's been prosecuted, and they won't give the government a fair shake. If they don't have anybody with those kind of biases, they're fine to take anybody. And I've seen Georgia do that.
By the way,
and the defense must not care either, because they're picking a date. Tim, you mentioned that the students will all be home from the summer by the time this trial is on.
That's
so
right.
They were looking for young people, and they wouldn't have picked that date.
So so the secret is in June, you're probably going to have kids that did not get into FSU in the fall, and they have to come in the summer semester to prove that they can be there. So they're not permanent residents, so they're not registered to vote in Tallahassee. So you're not going to get even those students. So you'll get the locals, but I don't think they're going to get a bunch of young people on the jury.
Smart. Look at this. Wesley John Holmes. Where have you been my whole life? He is an Aussie living in Tokyo. He's always typically here. Glad to hear that the rumors of your demise are greatly exaggerated. Great to have you back. Jen DeSimio, another familiar name. member for 14 months. You got some of the, look at this, Ned Smith. I mean, what can I say about Ned? You got Tiff Knox, Armand Fence, Roxanne A, Ned Smith again, Rosemary Romero's always here. Interesting question here to the professor, because I have no idea. This is just B-roll footage of today's hearing, which I'm going to get rid of right now. What would happen if Katie Magbanua, I can't see this happening, but what if she refused to testify? Could she be held in contempt? I mean, it seemed like she was pretty forthcoming last trial, and there's been talk that maybe the state will do something, kind with her in light of the fact that, she gave a plea deal and is now in prison for the rest of her life if she comes clean here.
Yeah, she can be held in contempt, but she's in prison for life now. So the question is, usually when you're held in contempt, they say you talk or we're going to throw you in jail. That's not going to work with her. So yes, she can be held in contempt, but what it would mean practically is a harder question to answer.
Just looking at some of the comments. Here's some of the other news from today. Tim Jansen, Judge Everett, he signed an order back on October 24th for both of these new lawyers, basically telling them that they need to do a comprehensive conflict of interest check as it pertains to any prior representation of co-conspirators, co-defendants, or witnesses in either Donna's case or that of her son Charlie. And he goes on, this direct quote: attorneys Zellman and Fulford at the upcoming case management shall be prepared to fully address all conflict of interest issues or certify their representation of the defendant will be conflict free. Obviously, Judge Stephen Everett is not messing around here because of what we just saw. If I'm these attorneys, I'm a little nervous that I'm like overlooking something maybe. How do you make sure that you're not, so the judge doesn't like drop the hammer on you?
Well, Joel, that was an older
Yeah.
case management. That hearing was held today.
Yeah, right. It happened
Yeah,
today.
okay.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, you just got to look and make sure, see if you've represented anybody. And I can see Jackie probably not having like a conflict because I haven't seen her doing much criminal. But Josh does criminal. He's been doing it full time. He possibly could have had a witness, but this murder case, probably not. Most of the witnesses were from South Florida. Now, if it was from here, there probably might have been a conflict. But most of the state's witnesses, except for like the neighbor and the law professor who started dating Wendy, most of those people were from South Florida, and there probably was, he didn't represent any of them. So the judge was basically telling everybody, you better check and double check.
Someone's asking if I have a TikTok, and that depends on what day it is, because sometimes I post. Sometimes I don't really understand TikTok. I sort of hate it, but I use it for the show. Martin Radner, otherwise known as Brother Counsel, go right ahead. And Joe, this question's for you next if you want to cheat and read it. Go ahead, Martin.
Oh, before I get to this question, well, I did want to say, first of all, that I wouldn't charge $250,000 to pick a jury. I would do for much less, like $200,000 would be fine for me. So, and I would do a better job, I think, than Josh Dubin. But
I'll do it for $150,000.
That's just number one. But also, I thought what's interesting is because part of when I was researching Charlie Adelson's appeal, and I did a couple videos on that. If anybody wants to take a look, we really broke down the appeal. Some of the case law in there is very interesting. One of the cases say there that a judge actually does not have to inquire about conflict of interest. It's the attorney's jobs to make sure that there's no conflict. This is not what the judge has to do. Now, Judge Everett doesn't want this to happen again, so he's requiring everybody to do it. But this is really a way above and beyond what he's required to do as a judge. Just wanted to point that out.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the cases there. I mean, some of those cases are very interesting about what's going on right now in Charlie Adelson's appeal. I mean, I think I find it interesting, but
I find it interesting. I find you interesting, Brother Counsel.
Well, that's why you're one of my strongest fans.
Joe, to you from Neely here, is a prosecution allowed to tell the jury what Charlie's defense was in opening statement? That's a really interesting question. So, can Georgia come out and say, well, her son and his, are they even allowed to know that this? Tim is shaking his head in disgust at this question.
Yeah.
I mean, are they even allowed to know that the son was convicted?
Well, they're going to know because they're co-conspirators here. So I don't know how you're going to, there's no way around it. I don't know why she would do that in an opening statement. It seems to me she wants to make her case for Donna's guilt, and whether that's the best tactical way to get at what Charlie's defense was, I'm not so sure. Both brother Counsel and Tim are more experienced criminal lawyers than I am as to whether you think that would tactically make sense to do it. It doesn't seem to for me.
This is an amazing comment here from Old Line Red. I appreciate it, especially on a weird evening like tonight where there's a weird energy in the air. I keep looking at Harvey and thinking, why is he in jail scrubs? Then I realize he's just in his dental scrubs. There is, I never thought about this. What a fine line between periodontal scrubs and a prison jumpsuit. Very, very odd. Never thought about it before. There's got to be something Freudian, subliminally happening here, that they wore scrubs their whole lives and now they're in prison jumpsuits. Harvey, not yet, but maybe soon. Tim Jansen, we talked about this a little bit. Chances of Dan Rashbaum and or Oscar David Marcus, who was Charlie's first attorney, chances of them getting called, if you remember, Judge Everett had him on a Zoom, had David Oscar Marcus on a Zoom. David Oscar Marcus wanted no part of it, did everything he could to not have to come up there and be part of this. But is there a chance that he gets called and or Dan?
Possibly. And I can tell you one thing lawyers don't want to do is take the oath and be a witness in any case, not even in their own cases if they're alleged to have been ineffective. It's a very uncomfortable position. And you've got a bunch of privilege in your mind. And so when you're asked questions, of course, you want to come out and say something, but you always have to make sure you protect the privilege of a client or a different client. And so I think Marcus he doesn't want to. He fought hard. He kept saying how irrelevant it was. He's trying to tell the judge, he was trying to file his own motions. And when the judge ruled against him, he didn't stop. He kept arguing. And I think the judge was going to require him to be there. Yeah. So I think there's a good shot that Dan could be called as a witness on this fleeing the country.
Wow. That would be absolutely wild. Tim, let me ask you a question, because I saw someone say they can't wait for Donna v. Georgia. I don't want to get you in trouble here because you work with these people, but do you think that Georgia has, I don't want to say a personal like animus or vendetta, but Georgia wants to win. Like, is she excited about the prospect of getting a conviction for Donna Adelson?
She bottles up her emotions, but she wants to win. And everybody in that office knows she wants to win. And she doesn't show her emotions on her sleeves. She doesn't do that. Sarah comes across more friendly and the kind of person you'd have lunch with and talk and have a drink with. And Georgia's just calmed and she's nice, but she's, you never get too close. At least maybe I don't, maybe because of my job, but Sarah is wonderful and Georgia's nice, but she's got a demeanor of a killer. She's good. She knows what she's doing. She follows her guides and she's not going to be knocked off track.
This question, go ahead, brother.
You know what I didn't notice when Georgia was cross-examining Wendy about after she learned about the double extortion theory, and she was like taking it apart piece by piece. You can tell, like, she was like, "Are you really gonna are we really doing this?" She actually started like, "Hey, I see a little bit of a person there. Like, I see some emotions coming out." Remember that? So that was
that is interesting.
Not very often.
I think she wants to win. I mean, it's true that her Tim wasn't her dad a FSU quarterback, so
he was. He was.
So he's got that. So she's got that competitive spirit. Karen Englander in the chat, I want this comment up, but she's asking what happened with John Singer. He was supposed to be on tonight's show. John unfortunately had a death in the family, and so he could not be here. Yeah, so condolences to John and his entire family, and we'll get him back on soon, and we won't make fun of him for his treatment of dogs tonight. We will.
I
keep
agree
that-
with him, by the way, about treatment of dogs. I want to be on the record about this.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me. So you obviously did not grow up with dogs, Joe.
You're
Potuto.
absolutely right. I did
Yeah.
not. And
Are you
never had one.
Do you like cats?
No, I don't like any animals. I
What?
wish they would stay away from me.
Oh boy.
You better watch out, Georgie and Windsor. Stay back.
I'm not unkind to them, and they are perverse. They come after me because I want nothing to do with them.
That's exactly right.
So,
Well, I will tell you something. You know, I don't have any dogs, and I didn't grow up with any dogs. I remember I had a family of 9, so like we didn't have any extra attention for anything. But I will say that my brother and partner, he has a dog, and he brings a dog to the office all the time. So it's like our associate here already.
no,
So-
for me, they lick you, and I don't like it, and they usually have bad breath, and it just.
Poor Windsor. Don't listen to this.
I'm very happy that the rest of you like dogs, but
You don't.
I
You would
can't.
not. Fred licks my face every night for like a half
no,
hour.
God, no.
Really? I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. I'm borderline. Look at them. They're sleeping together. Fred and Ethel right there. Oh,
You know what they say about don't trust people that don't like dogs?
No, I don't know what they say about don't trust people who
How
don't
could
like
you not
dogs.
love
That's
this
why.
face?
That's why Tim's first question to the jury is, "Who here doesn't own a dog?" You're
How
out.
can you- look at Ethel. How can you not love Ethel?
Windsor
Can
comes
you
with me.
See, she has her tongue out ready to lick. Yeah.
It doesn't fit in her mouth. It's
You
not
don't
her
like
fault.
Windsor?
By the way, I have a feeling that Joe Potuto is going to be much less liked after this show.
Her and Singer are being the same.
She actually just she just made Singer like the good guy here. I'm going up.
I'm very happy that the rest of you like dogs. I think they're really cute from a distance. I just would rather not have any animal get too close to me.
Wow, we got to go
Except
through.
for human ones, and even some of those.
Yeah,
Well,
at
look,
this.
my mother would say the same thing to us. She'd say, "Look," she would tell my father, "it's either the dog or me. So, you guys want a dog? I'm packing my bags."
Look at this. Everyone's shattered. Ned Smith. By the way, Ned Smith begs for the COE puts Fred in the shoe, the solitary housing unit, which is his crate, and I always have to free him. Free Peaches. That's
Joe's in the doghouse.
Look at this. They want your love. Uh-oh, Joe. Professor, no. Uh-oh, Joe. Them's fighting words. No. You're off my list.
I'll take you all on.
Professor Joe,
One by one.
you risk being canceled. Lottie, we are dog people. This is a dog-friendly show. Joe just ruined my Chewy sponsorship. Windsor and George are so cute.
I think they are cute.
But
I
look at
just
this.
don't want them near.
Look at this. But she likes Angel, so I guess
There
that's
you
sort
go.
of okay.
Thank you, Miss Nancy.
But then you've got this, Joe. Oh no, now I'm suspicious of you. And
Look at the
K9
dog in the
Catherine. Look at K9's picture is a dog. Oh no, you opened the floodgates of hate. Ned Smith again. Oh knowing. Marissa. There's a dog for everyone. This is true. I honestly think that the world would be much better. Space Coast, huge dog fan. The world would be a better place if there were only dogs and no humans.
But
That's
you
my-
wouldn't know anything about it, would you?
I wouldn't, but I'd be okay with that. Fred loves to be in there. Here comes Joe Potuto. The COE is very close to you in your thinking, which upsets me. COE loves to be loved and love the dogs when they're either have already been walked and or fed, but any other
Right.
times. But
Right.
look, she says Fred loves to be in the shoe. The door's open and he goes in to hide from the kids. And Joel, he needs a break. LOL. I should go in there. Actually, I would like to go in there. Joel and his dog share food. This is true. I have done this. I've used the same straw. There's a famous photo of me and Mabel Rose. All right. Well, that's a lot about dogs. Do we keep going? Let me see if there's another question or two. I'm just looking at my notes here. This guy, Fuchs, filled in. What's his first name? John? Is that
John Fuchs. He
John
did the
Yeah,
Winchester murder case.
Yeah, and he filled in for Georgia because Georgia was getting her Prosecutor of the Year award. Now I know two, because Josh Ritter in LA was Prosecutor of the Year from Courtroom Confidential, and Georgia Kappelman. I've had two, and she's been on my show, so I've had two Prosecutors of the Year. How about that? They're working, the defense, the new defense team said that they're working to get transcripts, depositions, all the materials, discovery. The judge said, you better get your discovery done by February 11th. Martin, that's not very far off. How do they ensure, how do you even know that you're getting everything that you need? How does this all work? Because now Rashbaum is not supposed to be involved, and he's saying, get all your discovery. How do you know that you're getting all your discovery?
Well, you're kind of at the whims of the prosecution, but if the prosecutor is not going to give you some material, I don't think the judge is going to take that very kindly. So I would be very confident if I was the defense that they're going to turn over every single thing that I need. And I would start literally from the top, from the probable cause affidavit, and work my way through the file. Then get to the trial, read the entire transcripts of the trial. And then, make notes as I'm going along, and that's it. You're ready to go. Make your trial binder, and then let's off to the races. I mean, just like Tim said, give me a month or two, and we're ready to roll. So, that's what lawyers do. We read and research and write. That's what we do all day. And when we're not doing that, we go to court and argue.
How do you stay awake doing that? I would fall asleep in 5 minutes if I was just reading documents all day.
Okay, so I'm not going to say that this has happened to me, but there will be times where I'm sitting and for some reason the letter G is typed on my computer for like the next paragraph straight. So that may or may not happen. But yeah, some lawyer, it's just take another coffee, take a walk around the office.
Yeah, look at Ned Smith quoting the great Joel Waldman. How do you discover you don't have all of your discovery? Did I actually say that, or are you just making that up? Because that's like a Nedism. Yeah, I think that we've covered just about everything. Definitely wacky energy in the air tonight, which I'm fine with and a fan of. Professor Potuto, she is Professor Emerita at the University of Nebraska. The Cornhuskers, once one of the most feared teams. You got to remember the Brian Bosworth days. I know he was Oklahoma, right? But that was
going to say it wasn't Nebraska.
Yeah,
so
but
don't remember them.
But wasn't that like a huge
Tom
rivalry?
Osborne, right?
Wasn't-
Tom Osborne, that's right.
Yeah, but wasn't that a huge rivalry in
Nebraska, Oklahoma? Sure. Until until Nebraska left the Big 12 and went to the Big 10 and played them every year.
Armand Fence, Professor Potuto, and your final thoughts, I guess. Do you think the lawyers watch podcasts about the trials? Interesting question.
Yeah, I can't speak for all lawyers, but if I was doing a case and it was on podcasts, I think I would watch. I don't think I'd be able to resist seeing what people were saying. And, you might get an idea here and there from the discussion. So I would certainly watch. And I think most lawyers I know would watch. Yes.
Martin Radner, he's got a YouTube channel. You heard he practices law with his brother and his brother's dog. And it's a sensitive topic right now. Yes, I am. And he also has a YouTube channel you probably heard of called Brother Counsel. Lee wants to see some STS cat love too. Let me tell you a very quick cat story. One of my closest friends is the chief meteorologist in Tucson, Arizona. And when I worked there, I would often go over this. We were both single, and I would go over, and he had two long-haired cats, and I'm highly allergic. And Matt, my friend, is one of the laziest people on earth, so he would never budge off the couch, and I would just end up sitting there on a couch. We'd just be staring at a TV, being complete idiots, mindless. And about an hour in, I my eyes would be watering, like tears dripping down, and he used to think it was hilarious. But highly allergic to cats. I like big cats.
They have Benadryl for.
I know, but I would know. It's a lot of work. But the COE and I did go to Africa on our honeymoon, which is the greatest trip of my life. And if you're an animal lover, Joe, you'd hate it. But if you are an animal lover, it's one of the most amazing things you could ever do. We went and saw gorillas, and then we went to the Serengeti, and it was absolutely unreal. If you are alive and you like animals, save up and go, because you will never see anything like that again in your life. Seeing lions in the wild, leopards in the wild. True story. We had an open air, like it's like one of those like old school. It's like I don't know, It's like a 1960s like open top vehicle. COE is eating a banana, and I say to the CEO, true story. You can ask you. I look over there. I say, "Oh, look at that cute little monkey." 4 seconds later, where'd the monkey go? It's on top of the car. It snatched the COE's banana right out of her hand. So that was the end of the banana. Brother Counsel, I had no idea what I was going to ask you. Your final thoughts. This panel is coming, not this panel, but they want you to come back for the February hearing.
Hey.
What are you looking for next in this story that never seems to have an ending?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I keep checking on every single day. Every single day I sit down and check on my cases, Karen Reed, Sarah Boone, all those cases. So one of the things I constantly check is the docket on Charlie Adelson's appeal and the motion that was filed there to relinquish jurisdiction and send it back to the trial court to see whether there's going to be a new trial granted in Charlie Adelson's case. I think that's going to be a very interesting motion and hearing, and most likely going to an evidentiary hearing. Of course, the Court of Appeals does have discretion whether to grant this motion to relinquish jurisdiction. I think they would, because it's such an important issue, and to see what Dan Rashbaum is going to take the stand in that evidentiary hearing and see why he made certain choices. And if it turns out that there was a conflict of interest which adversely affected Charlie Adelson's representation, well, guess what? We may be looking at a new trial. So that's something that I think may be coming down faster than February. Who knows? But other than that, we'll see what type of motions that are filed as they're getting the discovery in this case, and see if they come up with any novel arguments why certain pieces of evidence should be left out or whatnot. So we'll just keep watching it and see what happens. And tune into Brother Counsel, and you'll be able to get the analysis on all of it.
And then come over to SCS, and I'll have you on to break down your own analysis.
There you go. There you go. We're a partner.
Path of least resistance. Mr. C here. Johnny Carson is a Nebraska alumnus. Did we know this, Joe Potuto?
We certainly did. And Dick Cavett went to high school in Lincoln.
Wow. And look at this. And then, what a small world. Robin Ray, who's a casting director. She worked for Johnny Carson. Look at this.
We have the Johnny Carson Theater at UNL. I gave them some money.
Well, he had plenty of it. Nicole still wants an STS book club. Wow. I can't believe she mentioned the word book. Look at this. Right now, for $1.99 for the next 3 weeks. Listen, I had to fight my publisher on this because he wants to make money. And I'm like, I just got to get this story out there. So $1.99.
How much can he make on $1.99?
Like
50
4
cents?
cents. Yeah, at that. It's me pressuring him. It's just going to happen for 3 weeks, and he's bumping the price back up.
Imagine his agent's percentage.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Tim Jansen, you should come down for this, but I know it's tough for you. December 22nd.
We got our party the 23rd.
I know, it's crazy.
I'll be there tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale, federal court.
I'm going to do my best to come up and meet you for dinner tomorrow night. But Ruth Markel is going to be at Jafco's Children's Village in Sunrise, Florida, December 22nd. The link is in the chat. For some reason, I'm breathing like I have emphysema at the moment. I didn't smoke. I don't know why, but I just heard a wheeze, which is time for me to probably calm. Don't worry. I'm not going to the I used to get so run down at in TV news because I like once the news happens, I can't stop. And thank you, Jersey. Jen, where have you been? Anyway, it's just a minor issue. One time I had to be hospitalized for just pneumonia. One of several. Yeah, it was so I'm hoping to stay in better health this time around. Anyway, Tim Jansen, Timothy Jansen, the letter R, the OUR. They all want you to come back after the February hearing. I hope that you will. Tim Jansen, what should we expect at this next hearing, and what are you looking for through your legal lens?
Well, I had an idea and I kind of forgot it now. I'm waiting to see what motions are filed in the case. And February, that deadline, we'll see what's going on, if there's any pretrial motions filed before them, any motion in limines, any more in camera motions. I did speak to Mike Offerman when I did that judge panel. And Mike said that the longer that the appellate court doesn't rule, the better chance he's got of being granted his motion. And he's won a motion like this before, and he's filed them before, and they usually really quickly deny him. So he was saying the longer it goes, the better chance he thinks that the appellate court might relinquish jurisdiction and send it back for a hearing.
Wesley John Holmes, I better see you soon. I see him in the chat again. Red River Roller, Tim, right back to you. Since the defense proposed this mid-June court date, could the judge or prosecution propose to get the trial started even sooner?
No.
You gotta cut me right off.
No, unless they asked for a speedy trial, which she didn't do. They said June. They marked their calendars. The client signed off on it. The prosecution's available. She's not going to ask to go sooner.
Unless Mrs. Everett says that that's when it should go. And then,
well, unless she's going, like Como.
It would be nice.
And I just saw someone just sub to Brother Counsel. You all should. That person said they're going to see you at 9 a.m. on Friday for your next show, I guess. So there you go. Look at this. This is true. Gorillas were 6 inches from the COE. I was so scared the guide had to hold my mouth because they were nervous. I would yell. Then after they said no sudden movement, Joel hits the flash button. By the way, that silverback gorilla went from, these guys are like, they look like they're fat and lazy. They're all muscle. They're laying on their back, eating grass. And there's no cage. You're in the wild with these gorillas. And true, I think my flash went off and the silverback was concerned. It is a crazy, I'm delirious right now. So let me go on for 1 second about this. This is the land of Diane Fossey, Gorillas in the Mist. If you ever saw that movie, this is in Rwanda, which is a beautiful country. And you go, look at this. I still love Professor Joe despite her fur prejudice. So there you go. That's very sweet.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah, that is a very good way. But let me tell you my story real quick. So we go to Rwanda. I'm in the middle of a place. We literally stayed at the Hotel Rwanda. That's not a joke. The COE thought she was at like 5-star St. Regis. She's asking for like blow dryers and, oh, do you have this? It's like we're in a hotel in Rwanda, COE. Everyone's tuned me out by this point. Anyway, long story short, Joe, I thought you'd be interested in this, but even you are not interested. Diane Fossey, she studied the gorilla language, and everyone who works there, it's like the biggest honor in the country is to work at this place. And so anyone who works there has to study their gorilla language. And so you are literally hiking and the trackers start to go, killing my throat. They do that. They're saying words, and soon enough, you start hearing it back. It is the craziest thing. And I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, oh, we're getting close. And then, he's like, doing all this. And I'm like, what? He's like, they're telling us that one of the youth are sick. It's crazy, like that they knew that. It was COE. I'm not delirious and making stuff up now. This is truth. Absolutely an amazing experience. I cannot recommend it enough. The COE went back to Rwanda with a girlfriend, which was probably the craziest thing she's ever done. But it's a once-in-a-lifetime trip. And if you have the opportunity, maybe Rwanda, the country, should sponsor STS. There you go. I do have a gorilla obsession. Ethel looks a bit like a gorilla. I'll stop talking now. Huge thanks to the panel. Love you, America. Love you, Detroit. Go Lions, by the way. That's right. I'm a Giants fan. Go Joe Potuto. The Nebraska Cornhuskers coming to us from the great state of New Jersey, I think.
She's going to play in the Pine, in the Pinstripe Bowl in a couple of weeks.
Well, I'll have to. Where is that?
Pinstripe Bowl?
Yeah. Joe. Is that Yankee Stadium?
Of course it's Yankee Stadium.
Wow, I didn't know. Look at that. I didn't put this up, by the way. The COE just put this back up. If you haven't heard, $1.99 on Kindle.
If you haven't heard.
Tim Jansen. He is the famed Tallahassee defense attorney. Merry Christmas, Tim Jansen. Merry Christmas, Joe Potuto. Brother Counsel and I will be doing the Hanukkah thing, but it's weird. I think they're on the same day this year. So there you go. And we'll get an angel sent out to you, Joe, because you are an angel.
I want to tell you one thing, Edgar, because because I heard a literary allusion and I don't want to be upstaged here, especially after I gave my prejudice against all animals.
That was bold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote a short story called The Imp of the Perverse.
I've read it. My dad made me read it.
All right. And one of the things, you do the thing that you shouldn't do. And that's what I use to describe clients telling things after their lawyer says don't. It's the imp of the perverse that's driving them.
That's,
so there you are.
Wow, that's amazing. It's interesting that you brought that up. My dad used to make me read all these books. Soon I'm going to force my own kids to do that. We'll see you guys, by the way, tomorrow. Carmen and I, if you're in the area, but I doubt you are, the Miami Beach JCC, speaking there at 12:30. We were asked to go there. And then 5 o'clock, we're back on this Luigi Mangione. What a name. Luigi Mangione, giving a bad name to Italians, Joe Potuto.
Yes, but we have, as I said earlier, we have Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Let me say, if there's anybody in this chat who hasn't, Joel and the guests he's had are doing a terrific job with that. It's really it's a sad story, but an interesting story. But their guests are really very knowledgeable, and if you have time, it's really worth watching.
Thank you so much. I do not pay them to say this. Well, the final thing is someone, the COE, Ellen Greenberg has, there's a hearing tomorrow. It's not the Supreme Court one. It's another motion hearing, but there are no cameras in PA. We'll do a show on it, but it will not be streamed live. COE, make sure we take that down so people don't think that we do. Enough of our private business. Love you, America. Love you, Nebraska. Love you, Jersey. Love you, Detroit. Love you, Tallahassee. Justice for Dan Markel. See you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.